All right, thanks for being here. Great day. A lot of great fans out here today. We had Youth Football Day, which was, it was rocking, right? They were fun. Everybody in their jerseys. Then we had so many guests. We had Ronald McDonald House here. Just spent some time. That's why I'm a little late getting over with you guys. We had visitors from other countries here. We just had a lot of great people here. It was really neat. Had a young Ravens fan who I got my brand new Play Like a Raven hat. Did you like those hats? I don't know if you noticed the new Play Like a Ravens hats that we requested, that New Era got us, and the fan asked me for it. Couldn't say no, from Ronald McDonald House, right? So just really a lot of fun over there. So good day, a lot of work done. I thought we made strides today. We got better in a lot of areas today. Tomorrow the pads will be back on, so that'll be a test so we can operate with the pads back on. We'll be at the stadium, so that'll be part of it too. So that'll be a big one for us. So what questions you have?
So what does it mean to have all these kids out here? I mean, you provide the uniforms. I mean, the energy that they bring. I mean, it was pretty special.
Pretty special. I mean, Steve does a great job. Steve and Renee both of supporting all kind of causes, and youth football is one of them. And knowing that football is alive and well, and that parents feel like it's something that's valuable for their kids, that's pretty cool. Just seeing the enthusiasm and the fun that they're having. It's what we're about. We're sports. We're supposed to have fun, and connect with one another. So it was neat.
You guys made the move on Hoyland. Why was now the time to do that?
It's probably more about roster than anything else. We definitely weren't planning on making a move. We were planning on John being there at least for one game, maybe 2 games, maybe all the games, depending on how it went. Because if you're the drafted kicker, you certainly have the edge, right, Childs? But we wanted to keep the pressure on both of them too, and he was doing a good job and kicking well enough to earn a spot on the team. But we just had roster needs right now. We just needed some certain positions, tight ends, receivers, and running back. So we felt like we had to do it. Not that we couldn't bring him back if we get the opportunity or we need to.
Does it even solidify even more going forward?
I don't know if you can really equate it that way. I think he's just going to stand on his own. He's kicking well enough to win the job. I mean, he had another really good day. This morning they went over to the stadium and he made them all. So that's all good. But as we know, it's going to be the games. That's going to mean the most. It's getting late. I know. You smell the dinner. Yeah.
John, can you go over the roster? Gierre Ernest Johnson, did you guys sign him?
We did. You're going to have to help me. I'm not going to be able to list them off the top of my head, but Ernest Johnson signed basically during practice. So he gives us another running back because our other running back, we have a concussion there right now, so we want to make sure we have enough guys. And he's a proven guy, in the league. And then brought a couple tight ends in, to bolster us there a little bit. And we're working receivers out too, because you've got those guys with the different leg things. You want to have enough guys because we still want to have good practices. So you just got to balance your roster, camp roster. Sorry.
There's been a lot of high praise for Gierre Alexander, not just from what he brings from a playing perspective, but his personality, his energy. So can you talk a little bit about that, what you've seen from that standpoint? Well, he's full of energy. I mean, he's in the weight room at 6 o'clock every morning, and he's lighting it up and bringing energy. He's just that kind of a guy. But here's an example. So I showed a clip today where one of the young receivers or one of the young DBs got an interception before the day off, and he didn't run it back to the house. And we had been showing these clips of all of our guys, Ed Reed and Dwan Landry and all these different guys, Jimmy Smith picking it off and making good runs and stuff like that. And we want to encourage our guys, and he didn't run it out. I just told him, I said, man, what a guy like me who was not a good player would have given to be in an NFL practice. If I'd have gotten an interception, I'd definitely be running that thing back to the house. So Gierre, did you see what he did? He picks one off on the sideline. When we got this field's run this way, then we got another field run this way. So instead of running it back that way, he went on the other field and ran it all the way back. Did you see that? Like about 130 yards, actually, probably what it was. So that's the kind of energy he brings.
On the reverse, Lamar had a run where he ran for the touchdown. Gierre ran him all the way down. What has it been like to see the two of them kind of going out at practice together?
Yeah, I mean, Lamar, they punched the ball out today. It wasn't Gierre, but I think it might have been Jalen. And Lamar was kind of mad, but he couldn't get too mad. He says, it's. And I told him, I said, that's your defense too. And he goes, yeah, they got to attack the football. He was congratulating him. But yeah, I think those two guys, going back to Louisville and having that that relationship is good. It's good for both of them. They wanted to be together. But, just from my perspective, it's really good for Lamar to have a guy that, he goes back with like that into college. And it's really cool.
John, we saw Brent Urban out there. He's wearing Michael Pierce's 58. How did that reunion come about, and what role do you envision for him?
Yeah, it came about because I think he still wants to play, and maybe he came to that conclusion. And I know Eric has been talking to him for a few months, and it was in the works for a while, and he played well last year. So as long as he can still play and help us, he's a great guy, great kind of guy you want on your team. Gives us really good depth in there. I'm a little surprised he's wearing 58. It's a different jersey probably. It won't be the same exact jersey, but that's also very cool.
John, we've heard about the juice and the energy that Gierre has brought to practice. He's curious. Chuck has brought his own. Chuck Pagano has brought his own level of that. What's that been like for you, just in terms of the type of impact he's having back there?
Yeah, Chuck is probably like the coaching version of Gierre. With that, Chuck has always been that guy. He's always been a juice guy. He's always been a guy that great coach, great teacher, definitely, but also just great fun, great energy, always upbeat. Always positive. Didn't they do a circle around him and all jump up and down after the one interception there that Gierre got, and they kind of crowded around. Chuck was leading the charge on that. That, like we said, it's sports. It's supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be fun.
Quick follow-up on something you said the other day. This wasn't a factor today, obviously, with the weather, but you welcomed the heat earlier in the week. How do you, with the really big players, the biggest linemen, how do you sort of balance wanting them to sort of fight through things mentally with making sure that they're okay?
It's a great question, and we've got a lot of science behind that. So we know now, based on history, based on measurements, how much loading we want with what temperature degrees based on the history of it, to minimize the injuries as much as possible. In other words, to build the kind of stamina that you want. And what we're looking at is the preseason and the first 4 games of the regular season to minimize the injuries. So everything's built that way. We even have a deal. If they can get through the next 4 practices, it ups their chances of less likely to be injured by 8 to 10%. So it's just, I don't know how he figures that out, but that's part of it. With that, they're wearing monitors. So they're wearing the catapult monitors that measure their heart rate and measure their core temperature. So we know our people are watching every single guy. So it's not like the old days where you didn't know where somebody was at. Now we know where they're at. So we actually know if they can, if they can handle it or not. And we haven't had anybody get to the point where they can't. We've had some guys throwing up and things like that, but they haven't been to the point where they couldn't, they were in any kind of trouble. So, we just have to trust the science with it.
John, with the left guard competition, do you have kind of an idea when you want to have that settled by?
Yeah, I want to have it settled now, today, and but I think we'll know by the end of this next game, probably. Andrew's got the lead. Andrew Voorhees is in the lead. Something would have to change, but Ben is. I will say, Ben, he'll tell you, first 3 or 4 days didn't look too good. Then the next 3 or 4 days looked real good. So good for Ben. Andrew's looked good all the way through, so he's in the lead at this point.
We didn't see Devontae Walker out there. Is he dealing with anything?
Yeah, he's dealing with a soft tissue deal. Just want to make sure he's okay. He's put a lot of mileage in. A couple different guys like that. You just kind of want to ease him up a little bit at times.